Sergeant Chambers is known by millions as the saluting arena for the salute he holds that lasts over 4 hours at the Rolling Thunder Ride for Freedom during Memorial Day weekend at Washington, D.C. He was recognized by the Secretary of Navy for his efforts on 9/11 at the Pentagon when it was attacked. He now travels the country, reinforcing patriotism and inspiring students to respect each other, further their education, and blaze their own trail in life.
I've watched the man who salutes. He wears the uniform of his nation. It's military, formal, full of proud colors with medals on his chest. He is a man of pride. I look closer. He dips once, now twice. He has been here a long time. He holds his salute. He fights the pain. There is more to do here. He will not falter. He will not stop. He is standing for something and for someone. Unseen, but always present. He is a man of pride. But more importantly, he is a man who remembers. He cares and will not forget the others. Those other men, like him, and he salutes.
This is a speaking gig? Not generally my forte. Well, it's a pleasure to be here amongst you today, the great state of Nebraska. I don't think I'm worthy to be on this stage with these people behind me. This monument is so important. And the reason why is, can any one of you young adults here today tell me a name of a fallen serviceman from World War I? That is why this is so important, because there's a lot we need to learn. It's not just about forgetting, but a lot of people have forgot the sacrifices of the men and women, which many were first-generation immigrants that came over on a boat to turn right back around and sail off in World War I. My great-uncle, Private Anadale DeSantis, was killed in action in the army in Germany. America has a tendency to forget. That's why this is so important, because these wounds will never leave these families that lost their loved ones. And I will never say that I understand, because I don't think you fully understand unless you have lost a loved one. But I do understand. My cousin was in Iraq in the army, and he came home, and he took his own life. A simple, "How are you doing?" When you walk down the street, a simple, "Good morning, how are you?" probably could have saved his life because he felt alone and isolated. World War II. Can you imagine the sacrifice of only being able to put a certain amount of gallons of gas in your vehicle, only being able to buy a certain amount of groceries in the grocery store in support of the war effort? Imagine only being able to play the Nintendo or be on the iPod for a certain amount of time because you had to preserve energy for the war effort, making those sacrifices, saving ration points with Kraft macaroni and cheese. Are there any wows in the audience? Anyone know what a wow is? Women Ordnance Worker. You had a very large population of citizens that stepped up here on the home front in Nebraska and built the ordnance that saved lives and helped us win the war in World War II. We need to remember them. We need to shake their hands and thank them for their service. The Korean War. Over 58,000 lives were lost in 3 years. We were fighting the North Koreans, the Chinese, and the Russians. It's important to remember that. The Chinese need to remember what we were doing for them prior to World War II when we were fighting the Japanese off China's soil, where they came across the Yalu River and supported the North Koreans. We need to remember that. Vietnam. You may not have a true appreciation for what went down in Vietnam unless you were there. My father protected a village for a year. He kept the communists out of the village. He provided a quality of life that we sometimes take for granted. My salute has become kind of a welcome home to a lot of the Vietnam and Korean War veterans. They didn't get that when they came home. I had no idea that it would mean so much to them. So, you never know how you're going to touch someone's life by just showing compassion. And that's what the salute emulates. I'm going to tell you up front, with my upbringing, life is not fair. Adversity will strike you someday down the road. No matter how privileged or underprivileged you are in your life, as you overcome that adversity, that builds character and makes you a stronger American. We have an old Marine Corps poster that says, "I didn't promise you a rose garden." And that's exactly how you need to live your life in this country, because you are going to be our next greatest generation. If you do not know the historical value of that, I'd like to tell you to look it up, but the way you can just Google something in 2.3 seconds, it doesn't feel like it was back in the day when I had to go open the book and find the answer. Because then I remembered the answer longer than just a quick Google search. But there's a lot that lies on your plates. And I want to apologize for that. I try to think, what could I have done to help this country so it'll be in a stronger position down the road for you? We all need to serve our country. We all can serve our country. When you demonstrate compassion for a fellow American, you are a patriot of America, and you're serving our country. Just as I served in the United States Marine Corps, you don't have to go to war to serve your country. I did not go to war. We all need to step up to the plate and stand united together as Americans to move forward and to fix things. It's not a Mr. Rogers' perfect neighborhood, and I'm not going to pretend like it is, but there is a lot of great opportunity here. And what you need to first do is you need to listen to those teachers. The teachers are our last hope when it provides mentorship and ownership in our country. I owe a lot to a teacher. When I go home, I thank them every chance I get. I didn't exactly know what was going on in high school. I was too excited to be on the football team or be the mascot or play the trombone A lot of you here are elected officials within your schools, is that correct? Like council, president, vice presidents. You need to understand that your peers voted. They put their faith in you, and there's nothing more sacred than someone having faith in you. And I think we all need an element or an ounce of faith. It's very important to care about each other. So what war was after Vietnam? What was the next terrible tragedy in our nation?
October 23rd, 1983. 240 Marines and sailors perished in a terrorist attack against our nation. They were there as peacekeepers. There were some Army dogs that perished in the embassy in April of that year. The families have been trying to get a stamp to honor the peacekeepers of Lebanon. The Postmaster General, over the years, this is the 30th year, by the way, said it did not impact enough lives to warrant a stamp. They gave them all these excuses over the years. We do not put tragedies on stamps. Bureaucratic arrogance that divides our nation.
You need to be educated. You need to understand what's going on in the world. That will make you a stronger American to make the right decisions. I don't believe it's the government that is going to keep America united. It's the people. And I think if we empower you, you will make a bigger difference for the world. I've seen it. I've been overseas, and I've seen the difference that we can make. The people. The salute was just a sporadic thing. I was out shaking hands, thanking people for their service. And I thought, how could I reach all these vets zooming by on their motorcycles? I jumped out in the street and popped up a salute, and 4 hours later, they all rolled around me, and both sides of the street rushed me and said, thank you for giving me my welcome home. So it's kind of become my moral post. Desert Storm, Desert Shield. Bosnia, Grenada, Somalia, Lebanon. We need to remember these times because there were American lives that were lost in every single one of these conflicts. When you further your education, you honor their service and their sacrifice. It's all about service. I don't think all these freedoms should be given to you just because you're born in America. You need to earn them. You need to stand up in your communities and make a difference and help others. 9/11. I was at the Pentagon. I thought all my Marines were dead. I spent 3 days digging through the rubble, providing closure for victims' families. The first body that I found in the Pentagon was a gentleman that was in a sitting down position. He had a pen in his hand. His glasses were melted to his face. And I share that with you because for a portion of the victims, it was an instant impact. So he didn't suffer. But there was suffering. Ladder well. Doors were locked. People couldn't get out. It was a terrible day. I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget the victims' faces. What can I do to honor them? I can further my education. I'm not going to get up here and be a hypocrite and say further education, because someday you're going to be called upon to make a decision that might save lives. I still have a lot to do. Iraq, Afghanistan. Over 2 million family members have been affected from the war. A lot of kids growing up without their loved ones. I really appreciate the support I see from you when my brothers and sisters come home from the war. I think it's outstanding. But don't forget about them down the road, because they're living with greater disabilities than Vietnam or Korea. They would have perished then. So I understand that you guys really don't have a mascot at this school, or I realize it's a few schools. There's a storm, and what's the other mascot? A what? Antlers. Okay. We were the Silverton Foxes, and I was the fox. I was dunking the basketball. I was stringing the crowd. People would call me a sewer rat, and I had to show them my tail and tell them I'm a fox. Probably traumatized a lot of people because I would sing with the cheerleaders and chant in the costume. You know, kind of like if Mickey Mouse started to talk or took off his head, right? It traumatized some of us, probably. You know, growing up, I was bullied at the bus stop. First thing in the morning, I was bullied. It sucked. I had to deal with it. It made me a stronger American. You know, and when I think about our youth today, that was just at the bus stop. That was just a snapshot of my day. Unfortunately, with the social media outlets, it's not just at the bus stop. You know, it can follow you. I'm learning that with my nephew. Someone cracked onto his Facebook page and said he's a homo and all this kind of terrible, I mean, you know, if you're not, or whatever. It just wasn't positive, okay? And it was traumatizing for him. I mean, and I understand that. You need to keep aware of your surroundings in life. I walked right through the Pentagon, the plane hit the building. I was a young Marine. I just got promoted to non-commissioned officer, which is a very big thing in the Marine Corps. I was out at a restaurant. It might have been a bar, I forget, but I thought I was with 2 Marines. I was hanging out. I thought they were my friends, you know, and I was a young Marine. I was underage, okay? I can't plead the fifth on that anymore. I don't think I can be held accountable for that. I'm just kidding, but so the next thing I knew, I was in an alley. I'd been victimized. It took me several hours to find up the courage to walk from the alley to a house and ask for help. I had to put it aside because I was a hard-charging Marine, you know. Then I finally got to the point where I could, you know, get some help, talk to some people. And so I'm sitting in this room with these people that, you know, had suffered that to certain degrees throughout their life. And, you know, then I learned how bad it was for them because they had to live with it like daily. You know, some of them had been molested like for years. And that put a whole new perspective. You know, it was a terrible, terrible experience. I found some strength in their courage and their strength to overcome it. You never know. You never know. Look to your left and right. You never know what they're dealing with in their life. You know, you need to think about that before you're going to make fun of someone or put someone down. You know, the Kennedys were very privileged, but they also dealt with a lot of adversity. It's going to strike you. If not today, sometime down the road. It's not good to judge people. It's unfair to judge people. I make mistakes. I don't want to be judged. I'm not going to judge people. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get my opinions, have my opinions. The way you carry yourself, you have no idea how many people you can be disrespecting. Your own family, this school, the school you're from, the neighborhood you're from. You could be stepping on graves and not even know it if you don't think about what you're going to say in advance. You need to remember that. It'll look well upon your character. And I know every one of you possess the strength to help another. Whether you have both parents or no parents. A young man came and kneeled down in front of me as I was holding my salute. I had a weapon to honor the fallen from Iraq and Afghanistan. And he lost his father in the war. His grandfather takes care of him now. I felt like I should have kneeled down with him to reinforce his courage to practice his own faith. How simple can something so, I won't say easy, because after 20 minutes, that's when the hell sets in. Okay, that salute, doing it for 4 to 5 hours is very much a challenge. We need to care about each other. We need to come back to the center. We're so gung-ho on being politically correct, which is good, but we're losing something in that definition. You go to college, you get educated, you get qualified for a job, then you go to the job, then you're like, whoa, I learned all this, and this is how to do the job. You learn how to do the job, right? I call it common sense. We need to bring common sense back into the equation. We need to understand that people are not perfect. I'm far from perfect. And I think if someone demonstrates remorse, you should consider that. If they made a mistake and they are man enough or woman enough to say, hey, I'm sorry, I made this mistake. We need to move forward. I understand that it was wrong. That goes a long ways. Is anyone here related to any of these men or women behind me? Very lucky. That doesn't mean we should not live our life in honor of them. The freedoms and liberties that we have. Part of your service moving forward from this event, they fought for our freedom. You need to fight here at home for our liberties. It is your responsibility as a citizen to make sure that freedom rings here at home. That's how you honor their service. That's how you honor the family sacrifice. If I could go back to high school, I would have studied a lot harder. Because when I got out of the Marine Corps, I have some medical disability that puts me in the hospital for a few months at a time. If I would have furthered my education, I could have bought some time off, and I wouldn't have had to turn in my vehicle. It sucked. I didn't have wheels. I couldn't get around. The bank didn't want to refinance. The bank didn't want to hear that I was stuck in the hospital. They didn't care or not whether I was a military service member or not. But if I would further my education, because someday down the road, you're all going to have aches and pains. It's inevitable. You need to get a job that you can take a few months off and take care of yourself. And be able to afford the new iPad. If I could do it all over again, that's probably my only regret, is not furthering my education. And I will still strive to get my education, because that's one thing that no one can take away from you. are those documents that you earn. You see sports people, they hit 100 home runs or whatever, all this stuff gets taken away from them, right? If they cheated or whatever. But they can't take your education away from you. I think that's outstanding. Are there any kids that are going to be going in the military here? Everyone look around, look at those hands. Get to know them. Don't have the regret of not telling a veteran thank you until you see him on this side of the stage. You know how much pain it's taken away from a veteran when they see that salute? Holy mackerel. I had this guy send me an email and said, Marine, I promised my buddy I'd take care of him when I came home. When I came home, I couldn't take care of myself. He promised that he would actually take care of his family. The guy died in his arms. You don't have to agree with war, and that generation that put our veterans down, they forgot what they were fighting for. That's humanity. So we're going to have a question and answer period at the end of this, but I would like to show you a video on the tail end of this that kind of shows you that, I had the regret about not kneeling down with that kid that lost his father. But I didn't give up. And that's what will be portrayed in this brief little video. I want to thank you for your time. I hope something sinks in. I envy you. As the governor said, reach for the stars. You're the luckiest young adults in the world. The land of opportunity is there, but you have to take it. Nothing will be given to you. And you need to have that mentality moving forward in your life. Do not expect anything from anybody. You make it happen. You blaze your own trail. There's so much satisfaction in that accomplishment. And you all have the ability to make that happen. And I want to hear of great things from Nebraska. When I Google or I get online, look on the paper. Whether the Oregon Ducks ever get to play you or not, okay, thank you.